Hi, Dane. Thank you for joining Black Ink Cinema podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure to have you. For those who do not know, Dane is a comedian. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you began, how long you've been a comedian for.
Oh, well, if you include lockdown, I've been doing comedy for 10 years. So I did a few gigs early on, probably around 2006, when I kind of got into comedy, and then kind of dabbled with it, but began comedy really in earnest in 2010 BC. And by BC, I mean before Corona.
Everything's BC right now.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of started off, I suppose, doing open mic like most people do. And then in 2014, did my debut show in Edinburgh, and then got nominated for Best Newcomer.
Yeah, and congratulations on that.
Thank you. And it turns out first Black Britain to be nominated for the award. And then I got to do Live at the Apollo. And then in 2016, I wrote a sitcom for BBC Three, which was commissioned, called Sunny D. And that is the first Black on British TV in 20 years. That was cool. And that was starring Don Warrington from Rising Damp and Demi Mello, who's now a BAFTA winner. Catherine Ryan, who's now got her sitcom, The Duchess, coming out and stuff as well.
Hilarious, yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess I've just been hustling and grinding like most people do. And
you've got your own podcast, Dane Baptiste Questions Everything.
I do, yeah, because I guess questioning things was kind of always a part of my personality. That and class clown, I suppose. So the more disruptive elements of me, according to most primary and secondary school teachers, that was always asking questions, always questioning stuff.
It's good to ask questions.
I think it's great to ask questions. I think that most progressive social change begins with people questioning their reality or their position within society and what they can do to transcend that. And the podcast is nice. It's lighthearted and stuff, not too daunting. Had some really amazing guests on. But yeah, I had to create a platform where people can give a real account of themselves, and even them themselves can question everything as well. And I just think, again, it's important for us, especially given everything that's going on in the world now, to always question our reality. And I've had like some amazing guests on. I've had one, Jamilia's been on, Trisha, Emil Heskey, Reggie Yates has been on, had George Monbiot on, Catherine Ryan's been on again, as I said before. I've had loads of people. So I definitely encourage people to check that one out as well.
So what kind of questions are you questioning?
Anything. Well, basically, the way that my podcast works is that I ask questions of the guests, who are typically normally creatives, other people working in the entertainment industry or media, or just philosophers or just great thinkers. And it's really just about trying to ask people questions they wouldn't normally hear if they were doing normal press runs, and also giving people who are creative themselves a platform for them to, show another dimension to themselves outside of what they might be promoting or what they might do with themselves, but just having conversations, because I genuinely think one of the real issues with our society is that people have been educated to either feel they need to raise their hand to question stuff, or if they question any certain things, then they're considered to be quite stupid. And I always want people to kind of get rid of that idea, as I said, because especially if you live in a society where you are subject to governance or monarchy or any kind of authority, you should always be able to say why.
I hear that totally, especially with everything going on. We heard there was a little incident on your that you shared on your Instagram with you being mistaken for another fellow Black comedian. Do you want to speak a little bit on that?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, it's very there are so many, Rachel. So you could so if you weren't more specific about it, I'd be like, that could happen all the time. So as I'm sure the listeners and watchers know, that over the last 3 months or so, strangely, people have realised that Black people are globally oppressed.
And individuals. Wow.
It's mad that people nowadays are like, the news misrepresents people. Well, we're like, no.
You don't say.
Don't say. So, I most recently had been working on a show and was sent some pictures to kind of approve before they went out for press. And then went out for press, and it turns out they sent me pictures and thumbnails of Richard Blackwood. Now, if you don't know who Richard Blackwood is, to the watchers and listeners, then feel free to Google both my name and his. And I'm very sure you'll see a very distinct difference. A, the fact that he has lots of hair and I have very little. He's taller than broader than me. He's also 10 years older than me and has a really different name. And at one point in time, about 20 years ago, had his own TV show. So it's not like you don't know who he is.
Yeah, of course.
People are like, sometimes they can make mistakes and blah, blah, blah. I feel like if I can see what someone's house looks like in Scotland, Google Earth, then it shouldn't be too hard for someone to tell the difference between two black guys. There's not loads of us.
Literally. Because I was scrolling on your Instagram and I was like, I don't get it. Why is... And then I read the caption and I was like, wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it absolutely happened. And I just... It frequent occurrence. So I was trying to make light of the situation.
Yes.
And it kind of ran away. And went kind of viral. And at one point, someone was like, you probably cost somebody their job. And I was like, well, I don't really care. If your job is but if your job involves you making a distinction between two people, then if you can't do it, why do you have the job?
I mean, I can tell the difference between Trump and Boris. So I just it'll be nice for...
And there's 5 Jacksons, and no one confuses them, Rachel. There's 5 Jacksons, and I've never seen... Because these people are like, it can happen. Oh, yeah. But if you went to watch and Jermaine came out, you'd go freaking crazy and be like, we came with Michael. So I'm not trying to hear that at all. And
just lazy.
2 Gallagher brothers in Oasis. They got 2 separate bands and they never get confused. No one's ever like, I came to see... What's Liam doing here?
I thought, but the other one, it's just pure laziness. And in 2020, I'm sorry, there's no excuse for it. As
soon as cameras and telescopes were invented, there's no excuse for it.
And Google.
And I mean, not just Google. Like, we have technology now where you can see the surface of the freaking moon, innit? You could see a pubic hair on a fly's vagina with the cameras that we have nowadays. So if you can do that, if you can see the stars and work out there's bodies of water on there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you weren't sure, you could have Googled it. So your hubris is why you haven't got a job.
That's your fault.
So no sympathy here. But fun was had.
Yes.
And, it's always been a part, I guess, of the rationalization process. So the diaspora is that we take these things. So
speaking of your Instagram, where can people find you on the socials? Instagram, Twitter, YouTube?
Well, without wanting to blow my own horn, my accounts are verified. So you can type in Dane Baptiste and you'll find me on a good Insta, Facebook and Twitter. And I'm not saying that for something to be impressed by, Rachel, but I'm saying, once again, someone could have typed in my name. So there's no...
I get you, B. I get you. I can't excuse that anymore.
We've all been there. I'm just saying, there's like 27 different types of blonde hair that you can go and buy from Neutrogena, and you can also buy 17 different types of brunette and about 14 different types of red hair. So I don't want confusion. There's no excuse.
Oh God. So we celebrate everything Black cinema on Black Ink podcast, and you chose the iconic Coming to America. Why did you pick Coming to America? Tell me a little bit about why.
There are a number of reasons. I guess it was definitely a catalyst for me wanting to get involved in comedy, because I found the film so incredibly funny. It was a time when Eddie Murphy was pretty much approaching, or was at the height of his career.
Yeah.
He rose to massive prominence. So for me, and I think for a lot of my peers, he definitely was a spirit animal. And now there's so many layers to Coming to America that make it so good. But for me, it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. One of the most amazing and distinctive performances by a comedian that I'd ever seen. Like, people forget how young Eddie Murphy was when he was making these films. Yeah. And amount of roles that he assumed. Like, even though people tend to reduce it and ridicule it now, but at the time, him doing those roles and playing both Akeem and Randy Watson and playing Barbershop and, all of these roles, it was amazing. Like, this was a film where Samuel Jackson, who's now one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, had a bit part.
Crazy. Like, when you look back and you see Sam J, and then who's become the highest grossing actor in Hollywood. Yeah. Eddie put him on.
Eddie put him on, and just again, and that's another reason why I found the film so good, was because so many positive portrayals of, African Americans in it as well.
Yes, yeah.
Well as continental Africans, even though it's a fictional nation, it is still represented very positively. And I think it was so influential in terms of its African aesthetic. The same, James L. Jones, who plays
legend
Joffa, and his wife Aeolion, they were the same voice actors for Mufasa and his wife in The Lion King.
In The Lion King, I know. And it warmed my heart. It warmed my heart completely watching that and hearing his voice. So it fit perfectly.
Amazing. And it's just, even today, there are certain elements of that film which people still say to this day, like, to transcend 2 centuries and about 3 or 4 generations. Like, in the same way that Bye Felicia is now like a meme, and now
exactly.
like sexual chocolate. Exactly.
Do you remember, or how old were you when you first watched Coming to America? Sorry.
It's a good question. I couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. But I remember it like it was yesterday. Like, I was completely engrossed. Obviously, some scenes are a bit more racy, which when you're a kid is like, oh, okay, it worked for me a little bit. Nothing too crude. But yeah, I remember it, and just how enjoying it on so many levels. Like, seeing Eddie Murphy as Randy Watson, I found to be massively hilarious. Amos, who I thought was hilarious as Mr. McDowell, but again, I didn't even realize the extent of his comedy career. For ages as well, so he was amazing. Arsenio Hall himself became a star in his own right and had one of the most, one of the most prolific cult talk shows in the US. But yeah, I just remember seeing it and seeing Eddie Murphy being so funny and relatable, immediately accessible straight away. And again, as I say, for me, seeing that film, I was like, I want to be able to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it reminds me of Christmas time, because it just seems to be one of those films that either always comes on at Christmas, but reminds me of my family and watching it with my family.
Really?
It warms my heart.
That's what I mean, and that's why it's so good. Is that there's something in that film for everyone, and like you said, it's very rare that we get any kind of Christmas films or even Kwanzaa. But that's a film that works for both Christmas and Kwanzaa, and I think that's when I kind of came across it as well, as that my family and I kind of watched it together collectively over Christmas, and it's always nice aesthetic when you've got the oldest laughing, the kids enjoy certain parts of it as well. Yeah, but exactly. I mean, there were moments, but I remember thinking, just watching it and being engrossed, and then also realizing just how much it struck a chord and how influential and significant that film is, not to just like black people, but to everyone, all of my friends in university. There's very few men my age where if I go sexual chocolate,
yeah, I feel like if you don't know reference from Coming to America, you're too young. That should be the deciding factor,
because people still study Shakespeare to this day. That film to me is a masterpiece, and
100%.
I've got my 2 closest friends from uni, and to this day, if we see something like, one of us turn to the other and go, that was good, and you must be crazy. I mean,
oh God.
I think even to this day, you can ask most comedians, sketch comics, people that write shows, whenever, because we all know that the precinct and kind of the landscape of the barbershop has always been a good premise for visual and verbal comedy. I think most people are always still trying to replicate that scene.
Yes. It was so, if you've ever been, I used to have my hair short, and I've been in barbershops, so I'm fully aware of the conversations that happen in barbershops. And I love it. And it's just something that is so part of like the black culture, the banter, ripping each other to shreds. Just, it was really nice to kind of see, and it's still going on. It still happens.
Still going on. That kind of discourse, and a lot of conversations have become a lot more progressive, but for the most part, I still think, especially when it's being replicated in a comedic style. Yeah, I think most people face that part of it. Just walking there, like, you must be at your goddamn man.
I absolutely love the barber. Like that Clarence character is just phenomenal. Absolutely. He almost nearly outshines Prince Akeem. Like, he's so.
No, I completely agree. I would even argue, as well as, even Akeem, and that was again a significant display of range from Eddie Murphy, because as a straight man in the comedy, Akeem didn't really quip a lot and do lots of jokes, so he wasn't a silly person. He was very focused. Yeah, and then whereas Randy Watson, larger than life, ridiculous, and as you said, Clarence, absolutely ridiculous. And I just thought it was amazing. Very rare that and even to this day that you even get to see a rom-com and a comedy.
And that is like my earliest memory of a black rom-com, and correct me, unless someone, please tell me if I'm wrong, because there haven't been any on that scale anyway. Until more recently with, Jordan Peele and certain directors kind of pushing 2 black leads. But in that kind of light-hearted, when Harry met Sally kind of way, it's not familiar for us without it being surrounded by trauma. And here comes this like larger than life royal family from Africa, and he's like looking for love, like true love. He wants a woman with a brain. I was like, all right, Eddie, this is very forward thinking of you.
Yeah. True Prince Charming. And I think if you juxtapose that narrative with like today's aesthetics of, love was being prefaced by, you got to make this much money, I need a boss and all this other stuff. You had an independent, great inspiration for feminists in the form of Lisa.
Yeah.
I don't need that stuff. I can take care of myself. It's not her man, actually. It was a very good, it's a feel-good film. And I think it's a shame that there aren't more of them.
Yeah, and I don't know why there aren't, like you said, more fairy tale black stories.
Yeah.
Because this is what it is essentially. His princess arrives at the end, they get married and live happily ever after.
Exactly, and Lord knows we could use a lot more papers in the post.
Oh God, we could. That would be so nice. Just some happiness time to time would be nice to see on telly.
Exactly, but there are so many quotables from that film. It just, I think for most fans at this stage, they can probably recite it like word for word. But it's been, I would say that film is as influential as Scarface.
Oh yeah, 100%. And the reason why, because I think more recently with Black Panther, I think that was the closest we had to celebrating blackness in its fine and glory, and it not being a trauma story or surrounded with slavery or anything like that. It was just like, Afrocentric, futuristic, ahead of the world, uncolonized.
That's a good aesthetic, relatable,
Exactly.
not accusatory, and it's not like I don't need a film all the time to be blaming our oppressed stuff all the same.
Yes.
I'm at a stage now. I have been for a long time. I'm not watching any more slavery films.
Oh yeah, 100%. My emotions can't take it.
What are they for? What new evidence are you creating? I'm completely over them. I don't know why they still need to exist. We all know this stuff.
And the thing is, we know. We know. Like, there's no new... You're not going to show me anything new that I'm unaware of.
And the thing is, we say we know, but really, none of you have really captured the real brutality of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
If they really made the film, it'd be banned. And you would never see it anymore. Because it'd be a snuff. So,
exactly.
I think Coming to America came around at a time where, for a very long time, there was seldom any positive representations of black men or black people in general. Most of the time, we would exist as the comedic foil to the lead protagonist in like buddy cop films. Like you had Mel Gibson and the mullet, and then you had Danny Glover.
Yeah.
So he's walking around with like a Uzi, and Danny Glover's got like a .22 caliber revolver, and he's like, I want to quit. And I'm like,
he's a grumpy old man. Like,
grumpy old man, yeah. But even if I was a grumpy old man, after 3 films of fighting against terrorists, I'd have got a bigger gun by now.
just rolled up in there with a Mac-10, Yeah,
it's Lethal Weapon 4, and he's showing up with like a 6-shooter. Worse, the only time Danny Glover used a real strap was when he shot another black kid in Lethal Weapon 3 with armor-piercing bullets, and he had to have this big old funeral, and the kid's mum slapped him, and it's like, oh, well, the only time he gets to kill somebody, one of his own. So, for me, but that was, like I said, that was the foil. It was like, for a long time, it was very rare that you saw these positive representations. So, not just having, like, a protagonist in a rom-com, but him being, like, a prince and being royalty and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There were so many things, especially for me, like, growing up, being from Africa, and usually the representation is you must be poor with flies on your head, like that is it. And so having that, which finally reminded me of where I'm from and my people and the celebrations and the colours and the joy, like the genuine joy that just surrounds us, was so nice to see.
You know who loves it as much as you, Rachel? Do you know who loved Coming to America as much as you?
Who?
Beyonce.
Ooh, I mean, we can see that.
I felt like all of the song for Baby Boy, and I think even Black is King, you could look at even Beyonce's choreography and a lot of her aesthetics.
Oh yeah, it's so African. Like it's all from there.
But that's the influence from that film because at the wedding, the choreography was done in the film by Paula Abdul.
Yes, and that was from Thriller. Apparently, they used parts of it from the Thriller choreography as well.
It kind of
and you see, if you slow it down a little bit, you will see that's literally it's really sequence.
The film was so influential. I believe it's probably also one of the reasons why Eddie Murphy was the pharaoh in Remember the Time with Michael Jackson.
Right. So with that, I would have thought it was the same director who directed that video. But it was actually John Singleton. Because obviously he'd worked together. Londis had worked together with Eddie Murphy and Michael Jackson quite a bit in music videos and on the film. So I just thought, it must be. But then no. And John was, R.I.P. was quite young at the time as well. And to bring all those like iconic Black heroes all in one video, it's still till this day my favorite Michael Jackson video. I said it.
What can be said? Favorite Michael Jackson videos are not really things that people can critique because he set the standard for being archetypal superstar. And I remember, like, at the same time when I was enjoying stuff like Coming to America, when you heard the news that Michael Jackson had a new video, it was like, listen, I don't care what's on this cassette, it's getting deleted.
Drop everything. The
colour purple, no mum. Woman no more. Michael Jackson back with something fresh. So and I think I still have Coming to America on VHS. Like it's one of those films where I'm like, if it's on, you're never gonna be like, not again.
No, you just let it play. 100%.
As I said, it's even so much more rewarding now to go back to it as a comic and working within the medium and still, of the layers of comedy that I enjoyed so much and some things that what I liked about it. And like even Eric LaSalle. Like Eric LaSalle was one of the most brilliant protagonists in ER. Yeah.
Oh my God, I used to love ER. Yes.
But every time he's in it, I'd just be like, "She don't want to get out your thick Mrs. Girl." And it's like,
it's
ER.
Really funny.
He's an ER. He did Medicine Sans Frontiers. He performed surgery, and in my head, all I can hear is just let your soul.
And just that wet look, that horrible Jericho.
Gerald Jericho. I mean, we say horrible, but 10 years later, the S curl came into fashion.
Still horrible.
I lost that battle, but people go natural again. But I could definitely see that coming back. I think I see young kids nowadays. They have the little bit of the curl at the top.
Yeah. I mean, we can't keep up. What was kind of forward thinking for me at that time is the fact that in most rom-coms, you usually see the women going out to look for love, like true love. And in this, it was actually Eddie. He was like turning down the most stunning woman in my eyes when I first watched it. Like, what's he doing? Like, she's beautiful. What more do you want in life? But really wanting true love. And that's not something you usually kind of, at that time anyway, associate with guys. It's more like a girl thing who's like, I really want true love.
It was a great archetype for Eddie Murphy to represent because, you think about it, years later now we're having conversations about toxic masculinity and getting rid of ideas. But, for a man who was, supposed to be destined in the film to be an African king, to want a wife that's capable of critical thinking and not just to be an object of desire, it was a very progressive idea. And, it would have been nice to think that following that, people would have more aspired to create more Prince Akeems than Tony Montana's.
Yeah, you would kind of think. Do you feel like, because this was kind of at his height, this was like his biggest flex in terms of budget, the story, just producing such a masterpiece, all the actors, all the cameos, you had Cuba Gooding Jr. in there, Gary Gray, like you just had everyone.
He was great.
Like we said, Sam J earlier, in there. Do you feel like, I don't know how many people have got away with kind of like doing that or kind of introducing some of these, like the greats?
Yeah, it's rare that it can be done really well. It does take a lot of skill. And I think sometimes it's that you just get lightning in the bottle, especially people like burgeoning stars.
Yeah.
And maybe yeah, there's not much politics involved in putting the talent together, then it's not crazy straight away. Where, you know, and I think that maybe one of the more recent examples of that would be like Friday, for example.
Yeah.
Friday, yeah. I mean, to imagine Bernie Mac and Chris Tucker.
I know.
Film now, like that, you know how much that would cost you these days?
yeah. That's
so
$100 million for sure.
Yeah. So even, do you know what else was even amazing as well? And I forgot, like, Coming to America had Easter eggs because they did a nod to Trading Places.
Yes, my guys from Trading Places.
Christmas film that was helmed by Eddie Murphy, and you know.
And I think maybe that's why I still have this like Christmas feel about it, because Trading Places as well is another like Christmas movie, and I thought that was quite cute. And if you were under a rock and somehow missed that film, it was just so nice to kind of honor those characters, and it was seamlessly done. They didn't stand out. It wasn't like.
That was one times we've seen an example of a cinematic universe, and if we can continue to go back to a Zamunda cinematic universe,
I still think I would like in Black Panther for them to just like acknowledge Zamunda en route to, I don't know, New York or wherever.
Like, T'Challa, you gotta go see Prince Akeem. He'd be like, you know, Semi gets too lit.
Exactly. I think that would be brilliant. Do you know what I mean? They're both kind of like made up utopias of Africa, so I think that would be.
But that being said, I think, you know, you never underestimate, because I think if people see that enough, then it would encourage people to kind of want to create that same kind of aesthetic.
Oh, 100%. Talking about all the different characters that Eddie, Arsenio play, who's your favourite? Do you like from the side characters?
That's a tough one, but I'd say definitely the Arsenio Hall as the pastor.
Oh my God.
Is the best.
So awful. It's like such a good pervy preacher.
I want to be raped. Obviously, Randy Watson, I think Sexual Chocolate. But then, the barber as well. It's so hard to choose. But I will say as well, what I really, really loved was when the scene when Akeem and Semi go to the nightclub.
Oh, yes, that's brilliant.
That's a nice scene where you can showcase like the talent of the women comics as well.
Yeah.
And seeing that as well, I just thought was just amazing.
It's really good. It's really nice to be considered. Do you know what I mean? Like they could have just.
I wish this happened so much more. And again, for me, it's like definitely something I would aspire to recreate. And it's definitely something I tried to recreate. A very similar scene in Sunny D in the sitcom. I was reflecting on my dating past and stuff as well. So because like even to this day, I still want to know what Peaches is up to.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because she was the best and all the DJs wanted to feel her breast. I mean, there's so many quotables from this film. It's even exciting to still talk about it to this day.
Yeah, one of my favourite characters is the barber and the pervy preacher, but also the Jewish guy.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
I just think that was genius. Like,
you see, and it proves that you can be a black creative and talk about Jewish people and not have to get cancelled for offending them.
Well, that was my next question. Do you think that if Coming to America was made today, that there would be an issue with that? Or do you think people would see the banter, the humour, and get it?
I mean, people are a lot more sensitive to such things nowadays, so there may be some backlash. But do you know what? I wouldn't give a shit. So I still watch it. I still support it. And I think that the film was very balanced in terms of the archetypes, and there's nothing particularly derogatory there as well.
I was saying, like, he makes fun of Africans the most in that film. Like, there are so many things that he talks about and says, like when the landlord is letting him in, he's just like, there's flies and animals in there. You're used to that. And it's like, excuse me.
In Africa, chase the monkey.
It's just like, there are so many like stereotypes and digs
that you would expect to hear, and just see him kind of the way he played with them, it was really cool, man. And,
it was. Again,
it's something I do as well. I have, with my African friends, if I haven't seen them for a long time, I genuinely want to go, oh my God, I cannot believe it.
Tell me they respond,
take a picture.
That bit was, but the thing is, like, as an African, that was so African. Like, that is literally the response there would be a whole song and dance just of saying hello and goodbye, and everyone will be fully aware of it. Also, one of my favorite seasons when he's walking through the airport and he's like, "No one must know we're here," with 100
Louis Vuitton bag
behind him. That's quite African as well.
It's African now, but you know what? Like at the same time, nowadays you see the same thing being displayed by the Nova Reach from Russia, or even like Nigeria and stuff. And so, again, in many ways ahead of its time. And we live in a time now where there's a lot of elements of opulence that's kind of celebrated. So again, aesthetically, it's ahead of the curve. Like if you saw a Prince Hakeem walking through an airport, it wouldn't even look that crazy.
No, that would be completely normal now, and it would just be him showing off his drip.
Yeah, exactly. But much more likely you wouldn't get a cab and stuff like that. But in some ways, obviously he was quite naive. I think to be remade again, the new Prince Hakeem, with his wealth and his intellect, would be a lot more savvy about elements of American culture, I think. But,
of course. It'd
be interesting to see, because I think there is a sequel in the way, they say.
Oh, so that leads me on to my next question. How do you feel about a sequel? Are you for it? Are you not?
I feel like everyone is aware that nostalgia is a big part of the subgenre of entertainment now, so it's hard to avoid. Like everybody wants to go backwards for that respect, so you got to respect it. But myself personally, I think they can remake the film, but I don't think they should put it a sequel.
Yeah.
Like, point in time when like the early noughties, where there was a lot of remakes of like classic 70s sitcoms, and I think they remade like the A-Team again. They did like Starsky and Hutch again, and it's an icon. It's an iconic film that you can't replicate. Like the other Fridays aren't bad films, but because they're being measured against Friday, they never really measure up. I think coming to America now that Landis isn't around anymore, and Eddie's pretty old, is much older now and stuff as well, and certain elements of his comedy he doesn't want to replicate. I feel like it can definitely be done, but I just hope, because I think that was at a time, it was made at a time where a film was just made to be a good film and be compelling. I was still burgeoning as I suppose as a form of commerce, whereas now there are so many more stakeholders that are involved in the process of putting together a film. You've got to take into account product placement and how can you like East Asian markets. And I feel if they were trying to make a good film that's funny and be a funny rom-com about a mythical African nation, and talent from the diaspora, I think that can be done very well. But I just the endeavor, I would rather edit cameo or a bit part rather than trying to force it. Like for example, the remake of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool. People, you're ruining the legacy, blah blah. I don't look at it as like a sequel to Ghostbusters, in the canon. It's just a good film. It was a remake of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
with 4 women, but again, they're not. It's not Ghostbusters. It's the name Ghostbusters intergender. So
exactly.
But I know I'll probably watch it for the sake of it and how much it influenced my comedy. But I think it can make a good one. I feel like the film probably influenced so much comedic talent, and I think what would give this film a remake of Coming to America, the nuance it should deserve, would be to employ so much of the continental African talent we see today. This was now, before then it was very different. Whereas now, where you've got like your Trevor Noahs and your and Bucket Mouths and people like Trix from Canada, who's Ghanaian and stuff as well. Like the continent, and I was fortunate enough to do the Johannesburg Comedy Festival last year.
Oh wow!
Rich with like comedic talent. So I think for a film like this for that film to work, I think, and to have the global appeal it deserves, they should take that talent as well as so much talent that's been influenced by Eddie Murphy, because we're now maybe 3 generations later in terms of comedy, from the States.
Yeah,
I'm sure influenced, and so I'd love to see a film like that, and with like maybe a Jay Farrow as the lead.
Yeah, he's hilarious. He's so funny.
He looks enough like Eddie and can definitely sound like him to pull it off. So I say Jay Farrow to play the son of Hakeem in Coming to America, the return to the motherland.
I love that. I totally agree with you, and I'm not a fan of remakes or so-called sequels if it's really unnecessary. I just think just make a whole new film and cast certain people and like you've suggested, like do cameos and maybe reference certain things, but I think there is room for new material rather than just like recycling old stuff. Did you ever watch the series? There was like a pilot of Coming to America series.
Nah.
Yeah.
Was it in it?
I did watch it. I knew it existed, but I'm so against things like that I just was like, I'm not involved. I just wanted to
If it was worth,
a big fan.
It was worth watching, we'd know.
Also, the music in there was written by the legendary Nile Rodgers, which has this very like 80s punky feel to it. Did you love the music?
I mean, I did love the music, and now that I found out who was the composer, I love it even more, and it makes absolute sense why the music was so amazing and engaging.
Yeah.
Nile Rodgers is a legend who sometimes I feel is not given the respect and mentioned in like the same veins, I suppose, as greats that we know as like your James Browns and your Princes, and but Nile Rodgers essentially was the innovator of a style of playing the guitar that people still try to this day. So I loved it. Like, it was that soundtrack at the end. Oh, say, can you see?
Brilliant.
America. Loved it all.
Absolutely brilliant. I still think, I don't know if we should credit him for the "She's Your Queen to Be." I don't know if he wrote that. Whoever was the magician behind the lyrics of that song forever is in my heart, because the lyrics were just hilarious.
I'm going to say now, Rachel, I'm going to sing it at my wedding.
Oh, that's got to be beautiful. Please share that with the rest of the world. Please do.
Of course. I will definitely do that at my wedding. And I won't lie to you, I've been to weddings, and even though I haven't said it out loud, in my head I've been much.
You were just like getting prepared.
Oh, action. Dane, shut up. I'm not doing anything.
You are, that is, well, at least you're prepared, and your wife will be very happy.
At the wedding.
Yeah, at the wedding. One thing I have to say that kind of jars me about movies or black movies and TV series from the 80s, 90s, basically up until 2020 this year, is casting family members. Now, Lisa is clearly biracial. Her sister, who they apparently share the same mum. And I love how they just always like try to, one of the parents is missing, so you just have to leave it to like question. But they're supposed to be full sisters, because they talk about the mum not being with them. It's such a cop-out. And I'll explain why it's such a cop-out as well. On top of that, Lisa, who represents everything angelic, beautiful, smart. And
his sister's a bit
terrible. More... Yeah, and then her dark-skinned sister, who represents ratchetness.
Superficial and
superficial, chasing the guys. Like, she goes through about 3 guys in there, just trying to catch a guy. And I remember even watching that as a young girl, and I was like, you're making me not like her, but it's who she represents. You know what I'm trying to say? And so there's been this character constantly in black movies, constantly in other movies as well. Like if you want the best friend's always like the face of the best friend's always a black dark-skinned girl. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like not every day.
Yeah, it was in Honey, and I think it's a very frequent.
Yeah, in Honey, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, friends. If I'm honest, and probably because I was a guy and a child, I didn't notice initially until the women in my family made me aware. But at the same time, because in my family, like my dad is very fair, my mom's darker, so I probably wasn't as aware of it as I am now. But yeah, it was definitely something I noticed, and it was an issue. And I really hope that's something that is addressed moving forward. I feel like, with people like Lena Waithe and people like Issa Rae, who are
they are.
I would go so far as to say right now, as far as black comedy is concerned, between those two, I mean, she's probably one of the best independent filmmakers right now, and I'd say that Lena Waithe is carrying the torch from Spike at the moment. And
100%. Like, her creativity is just madness.
Absolutely. And I would also say, after watching the film Little with Regina Hall and Masai Martin,
love Regina. That's
probably one of the funniest black films I've seen in the last.
And it had Issa as well.
Yeah, and Issa Rae, like, probably the best writer right now. I think she's the best. I mean, I don't even want to try and reduce it by proceeding prefacing what I'm saying by her being black, but so far as her representation of black archetypes in cinema.
I've been saying this. I've been saying this from the rooftops.
Seen Little?
Pardon?
Have you seen the film Little?
Yeah, of course I have. I saw it in the cinema twice.
That film is so funny. I almost dashed my popcorn at someone's head just to be like, hey, can you believe how funny this is?
Like, it was... I love the fact that Marseille, what she's doing, like that whole little trio of fabulous women. I was just like...
the youngest exec producer in Hollywood history.
I just want to high-five her parents. Like, thank you. Thanks.
If I meet Marseille Martin and Issa Rae, I can't do anything less than prostrate for them.
They have a warning.
Listen, there's certain people you have to prostrate for. If you see Cicely Tyson, you prostrate. There's no question.
100%.
You must prostrate. So
100%. Just
I'm 200% serious about that. You know, if you see Cicely Tyson, you must prostrate.
1,000,000%. Like, she's a living legend.
Is a living legend. Harry Belafonte, you must prostrate. And you know, right now, Issa Rae, you have to prostrate. Like,
you have to.
So I'd say, like, it was an issue, and I think it was an issue that kind of carried across a number of elements of black creativity. There is a wave now, and there's a much more broader discussion about issues like colorism that's being addressed, and not that everything's changed for the better right away, but I think there's now a rebuttal, and like for myself personally, very inspirited by the fact that there's now methods by which, you know, black women as a whole can have these discussions and raise their rebuttal and raise their concerns, and you know, if they want to be detractors, they have every right to do so. But what's much more encouraging is that, you know, rather than lament it, like I said, you have now creatives who are addressing that and creating these new aesthetics that are amazing. So I think
for me, like, even when Beyonce did Brown Skin Girl, I don't think people who are like non-black women understand how Beyonce singing that, and then even just now dropping that whole visual of her and Kelly, like, that just melted my heart, because they've created this kind of like division of light skin, dark skin, and actually it's quite nice for a sister, a light skinned sister, to be like, no, I'm not involved. I'm not part of any of that.
Again, that's what I'm saying. It's like this is. I mean, you know, you have to give up to the women. Is that this is being addressed by, like, the aforementioned. Also, I've heard Zendaya's. You know, she's referenced her own light skin privilege and stuff as well in terms of mixed issues, which is massively encouraging.
She's my girl. I love her as well.
Yeah, and she, you know, she's definitely addressed it as well. And so, you know, seeing someone Beyonce doing that, and then, you know, that narrative being further bolstered by the Solange's body of work in general.
Yes, exactly.
And, it bodes for good things. So I would say, moving forward, if we were to ever ponder the idea of a anthology for something like Coming to America, then you need to go to make sure the thing bangs properly.
Oh yeah, for sure. There needs to be a woman involved in the creative, because
absolutely. I think that's absolutely essential. And it's mad because my mum's dark and my dad's fair. So when I watched Coming to America and I see parents, I'm like,
you could relate to that.
Really.
Talking about Coming to America, there are so many, like you said, iconic lines, iconic moments. Are there any lines that stick out to you? Like, for me, maybe it shouldn't, but like, your royal penis is clean, Your Highness. Like that. I was just like, is this life? Is this okay? This is his life. This is happening.
I probably couldn't indulge that part too much because I was watching family. But there's so many points. But I think for me, like I said, there's a British aspect to that. Is that, to me, it's the subtle things where it's like, this is Reverend Brown. He's been my pastor for years and I love him very much. The Reverend's like, ugh, what the
yeah.
Like, it's like universally hated by everybody, you know, slimy and this like sexual jealous, and then this, that boy's good, man. You must be crazy. Good and terrible.
Yeah, even that little conversation with them in the church and stuff, the interaction is just brilliant.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's, for me, like, obviously, and I guess like more savvy with comedy now, like all the big laughs are all good, but for me, it's the little stuff. Like, it's all things where it's like, see, McDonald's got the Big Mac. We got I do mine with
clever.
But the cheese. I don't do mine with a sesame seed bun. Yeah. That's the difference. Or even Louis Anderson, who again is a American comedy legend, where he's like, at the moment I'm washing lettuce, soon I'll be on the fries. And that's when the bucks come in.
Yeah, even though he didn't play a huge part, his role was brilliant, because I feel
That's
like
it.
everyone who's ever worked in retail knows someone who
Exactly. And that's that's great comedy, is that sometimes it's been able to utilize comedic talent to just be like, you just need to do 4 lines and it'll be perfect. And it's edited. And there's so many instances of that in like Coming to America as well. Like even the lady when he goes to do the mail order, when she goes, King John Jofer, we are in dire straits. Yeah, she's like, make it a cool meal.
Make it a cool meal. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant. Her execution was just on point.
Yeah, I also like you said, I like the archetypes of the women in Coming to America. I mean, definitely the colorism was an issue, but having Queen Aeolian doesn't have it from Jaffe Joffa.
Yeah, I love that. She held him down. She held him down.
And like I said, it so iconically to the point where they had to pay the same mum and dad for Simba.
Yeah, love that. So where does Coming to America sit in your Eddie body of work? If you had to name your top 3 Eddie would Come to America come in.
It's at the top. And then I'd say for me, probably Trading Places. And then Raw, if you consider Raw, because Raw is like a comedy concert, but it's a movie.
Yeah, but no, we're going to take Raw out because that's cheating. You've got to take Raw out, that's cheating.
So yeah, so Coming to America is number 1. Then number 2, I'd say probably Trading Places. And then number 3, that's a tough one because then I have to choose between either Beverly Hills Cop, Golden Child, and maybe 48 Hours. But gun to my head, I'm gonna say, I miss one. All right, so number 1 is Coming to America, then Trading Places, and then because you're putting a gun to my head, I'm gonna say Beverly Hills Cop for the soundtrack.
Okay. Yes. Same. I would definitely Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. To be fair, I do love 2 as well. 2 level. Coming to America, and Life is pretty up there for me. I think people forget about Life.
You say people forget, but again, another example of like it's just because there's so much comedic talent in that film. Mm-hmm. It's not that it means that people don't shine very well, but it's like you got Eddie, Martin Lawrence, Bernie Mac. Oh God, there's so many people in that.
Yeah, there is.
There's too many people, but it's just like Life is a great film. But I'm like a soft Phoenix. I'm like, they were in prison for too long.
Yeah. It's called Life.
You could find that film as well. Oh man, that film was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So, if anyone was living under a rock and they have not managed to watch Coming to America, and you had to direct them to YouTube to watch a clip, what would the clip be?
Oh, it would have to be. Got to be Central Chocolate Black Awareness Week.
God, that was as a woman, that was very, very painful and hard to watch. Sometimes, like as an adult now, like as a kid,
I absolutely get that, and it's only you remind me of that because when I was a kid, I paid no attention to it whatsoever.
Yeah, it just
I don't know. I guess I was raised by a lot of women. There's never been an instinctive for me to like objectify the women in that when he's like, turn around, ladies. I was like, I have no idea what's going on here. I didn't even feature. I was more like, well, they're doing McDonald's for free. So, but I'd say that would be the one to watch. Maybe we'd skip after that and then probably just go straight to the intro of Randy Watson. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I quite like the dance sequence at the beginning. I feel like just, in fact, the whole beginning was just iconic.
Yeah. The wedding reception would be a good one as well.
Yeah.
That barbershop scene. Mum con Clay. I'm con Clay.
Mum con Clay. Yeah, exactly.
Club scene is also good.
What? Sorry.
The nightclub scene when they go and meet the ladies.
Yeah, that's quite popular as well with Arsenio Hall doing his feminine touch character, which he played really well. It was so funny. You can just see Eddie's face is trying so hard not to laugh throughout that whole scene.
So hard. I hope forward that they maybe use a actual trans actor positively moving forward, which I'm sure they can definitely do. I think there's a lot definitely use. So, but yeah, I'd say those would probably be one. For me, it would probably be the Randy Watson scene.
for sure. I genuinely think any clip from that film would do anyone. Even when Eddie is just finished his date with Lisa and he's singing in the streets, which is something you don't often see, and it made me think of Singing in the Rain. And although he's singing terribly, it's all intentional, but it's like I'm so overjoyed and happy, and it was just like we all feel like that sometimes when you're just like, oh, that was like the best date ever.
Yeah, I've done that. I've definitely done that. I can tell you for free. I've definitely walked home and gone, someone to care. To be loved, what a feeling. To be loved.
I have. And then taking my headphones out and being like, oh, snap, people can hear me. Super awkward.
Well, I'll do it again, Rachel. I will do it again.
Do it again. Dane, it has been an absolute pleasure having
you.
Black Ink podcast. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed hanging out with you. And it'll be amazing if you can come to one of our screenings. We're up and running. So you are more than welcome to join us anytime.
I would love to, definitely.
Awesome. And well, best of luck with everything that you do, your podcast as well. And hopefully we'll catch up soon.
For sure. Anytime. And I will be at Black Ink Cinema as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Take care.
Oh.